Meanwhile, President Biden announced $100 million in U.S. humanitarian aid for residents of Gaza and the West Bank. The funds will support more than 1 million displaced and conflict-affected Palestinians. Biden also to ask Congress this week for unprecedented support for Israel. Take a listen.
We're going to make sure we have what you need to protect your people, to defend your nation. For decades, we've ensured Israel's qualitative military edge. And later this week, I'm going to ask the United States Congress for an unprecedented support package for Israel's defense. We're going to keep Iron Dome fully supplied so it can continue standing sentinel over Israeli skies, saving Israeli lives.
Here to discuss the role of the U.S. amid this war in Israel is former ambassador to Morocco, former White House Middle East advisor, Marc Ginsberg. Marc, thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you.
And Marc, I first want to acknowledge your nephew was a member of an elite Israeli Special Forces unit, was killed trying to rescue hostages on a kibbutz. And Marc, I just want you to know our deep condolences are with you and your family right now.
That is so much appreciated. I just returned from Europe. I was trying since his death to get to Israel, but unfortunately the flights were all suspended, but I'm circling back to go back in a few days.
Marc, I want to start with your reaction, your response to President Biden's visit to Israel. He's there even as the war rages. He's meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What do you think, Marc, President Biden is hoping to achieve with this visit?
Well, there's several things that the president is trying to achieve. First and foremost is to reassure a very shocked Israel that the United States has Israel's back in more ways than one. Most importantly, Israel feels, or most Israelis, I would dare say most Israelis, feel that their own government completely let them down a week ago or over 10 days ago. There's more confidence in the United States government, I dare say, than the government in Israel. Secondly, is a reaffirmation that the United States is going to do everything possible to avert a expanded conflict, particularly in the north, from Hezbollah and from Iran. And I think third, which was what the president was hoping to do, was to open up a humanitarian agenda for Palestinians that would, in effect, leverage his capacity and Secretary Blinken's capacity to engage in a hostage release negotiation initiative. Unfortunately, the events in Gaza overnight put a regrettable end to that president's efforts, because he was supposed to meet with Arab leaders in Amman, Jordan, and those leaders decided to cancel that meeting.
And Marc, I'm interested to get your take as an ambassador, what could also be going on behind closed doors. And you know this well, of course, that in past conflicts, we've seen the U.S., they give Israel, Marc, this leeway, this room to engage militarily, but then fairly quickly the U.S. will ask Israel to pull back. Do you think Biden is putting any kind of pressure on Netanyahu in that regard?
I think he's signaling two things. Get the job done to decapitate and eradicate the leadership of Hamas, but don't do so at the expense of not only creating a further problem for yourself, but risking undermining the very efforts that helped bring about the Abraham Accords and the president's most important agenda item in the Middle East before the conflict was to establish a peace treaty between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
And Marc, you mentioned the Abraham Accords. I'm interested. You were the former ambassador to Morocco appointed by President Clinton. Do you think this conflict could motivate Morocco to exit that deal?
No. In fact, I was just on the phone today with several very important leaders in Morocco. And while the Moroccans always sit in what I would call the bleacher section of the ballpark when it comes to Palestinian support, they happen to be the most vocal, if not the furthest away fans. I don't think that Morocco or the king, particularly who makes these decisions, he may have in effect suspended what I would call progress for peace between Israel and Abraham Accord countries. In fact, before the conflict even broke out, Morocco suspended hosting what is known as the Negev Forum under the Abraham Accords because of unhappiness in Morocco over violence that was occurring on the West Bank.
Mark, we mentioned how President Biden meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, but Biden's meeting with Arab leaders did not happen. That was canceled. What did you make of that news?
Well, it's an unfortunate byproduct of the horrific events we saw happen at Al Khalifa Hospital in Gaza. It doesn't make any difference to the Arab street that the United States and Israel intelligence confirm that the attack at the hospital occurred as a result of a terrorist misfiring missile and not because of any Israeli bombing strike. But that's academic. The anger that is welled up in Jordan and in Lebanon right now and some of the other cities in the Arab world, they're not paying attention to the facts. They're leading with their hearts and not their heads.
And Mark, final question here. Israel's ground invasion of Gaza, the land war, it has not happened yet, Mark. I have seen all kinds of theories trying to explain that. What do you make of that?
What I make of that is that the Israelis are still trying to find out from their own intelligence gathering. They're making probes into Gaza. In fact, Israeli soldiers are being injured and killed every day now, but you're not seeing that because the massive invasion hasn't occurred. They're trying to see if they can find the location of their own Israeli hostages first, and to see if they can get more on the ground intelligence where Hamas booby traps and other and Hamas and other terrorist group leaders may be hiding out. They don't want to go in and just completely devastate every building if they can avoid doing so by having more raw intelligence about the whereabouts of Hamas's leadership. I mean, the key here is not to destroy Gaza. The key here is to decimate and what I would call denazify the Gaza Strip.
Mark, thank you so much for your time and your insight today. And again, our thoughts are with you and the Ginsberg family.
It's very kind of you all. It's very much appreciated.